Portfolio was built and put in place to educate photographers out there on various genres of photography. And we have Kimo Lauer here, photographer, joining us. Thank you for coming by today.
Of course. Hey, everybody.
Kimo has been on the mainland, has been here, has shot there and here. And today we have the privilege of just picking your brain on that experience. When were you on the mainland?
I moved there when I was 17, way back a while ago. But it was film, obviously, film photography then. So I shot with a Pentax 6.7 from till like 2005, 6,
Wow.
7, 8 maybe even. I was very slow to go digital. Hoping
When did you realize you had to make that change?
When every graphic artist
You mean I have to scan this slide?
we're taking all the jobs because they're like, I can do the photos, I'll do the editing, I'll do the photography and everything. So we got kind of squeezed out little by little until clients realized that they took a lot longer to get the jobs done because they would take one image and edit it for 4 hours. So it was kind of working against like how people worked with photographers.
I see.
Because when you have a 100, like a medium format film, you have 10 frames to get something on that roll. So we were very more critical as far as preventative mistakes.
Especially like just critical of what you're shooting and the
And
quality of it for every
blink.
shot. Yeah, every shot, right?
Because when you look at a proof sheet, you don't want to see a bunch of blinks. And you take digital, you can take 100 and take the best 10 and make a proof sheet and go, this is my work. And you're like, yeah.
And that transition for you, going from being a seasoned film photographer, transitioning into digital where you can just shoot, and keep snapping, and then
to where it's an iPhone now.
Yeah, right. How did you adapt then?
I haven't. I'm still bitter. But it's ironic that a lot of photographers are going back shooting film. It's kind of the trendy thing. And in my head, like they're all shooting 35 millimeter. And like, you should try get a Hasselblad or something a little more interesting, because then you can really see the difference.
Right. Especially the size of the negatives and the quality that you get out of it. I know in the past a lot of people, their test shots were Polaroids, and you're talking about like $2 every snap. And now everything's digital. You get to proof it right there. So big difference. And not to knock film, I think that there's definitely an art there. Once in a while I'll take out my film camera and just go at it, just make sure that like you said, you really have to be critical of what you're shooting, your skill set, your knowledge of exposure,
right?
And it's always fun.
Yeah, and for people that have shot film for a long time, you just can read light. Like you don't have to, bring a light meter out a lot of times. And like the Pentax had a very general light meter that could kind of tell you if you're. And again, the philosophy with film is you can overexpose film and get a more contrasty or saturated image. Whereas if you do that with digital, you lose everything.
Yeah, it's blown out. What's blown out is blown out.
So,
what's black is black.
Yeah, so you kind of have to undershoot when you do digital, and then go to Lightroom instead of a dark room and add light and editing. So that whole kind of thought had to kind of switch when you shoot digital, because you look at it and it looks underexposed in most people's eyes.
But that's but you need to shoot it, like you said, you need to shoot it that way for post-process purposes.
And when people want to see the raw images, you're like, but they're all gonna look dark and underexposed.
It's not gonna look good.
So that's
funny. Definitely familiar with that. And
so in my field, a lot of people, the photographers that never shot film, that just were like graphics people that went into photography, they would never show raw images. So they would give the clients just like 5, if that many, edited final images. And being a photographer with film, you're like, that's so cheeky.
Mm-hmm.
We would rather let the client pick, and then you would do the editing
Edit
on that.
after, right?
Yeah. So then clients got lazy, and they're just like, oh, just pick them out, edit. So then we're editing for them now. So the whole cycle of who does what in the industry,
Flip.
yeah, flip thanks to those.
That's interesting. You know, I didn't, you know, putting it into that perspective and looking at it that way, I really didn't think about that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. When before, again, you were much more critical of each shot, and that portfolio or that lookbook or those proofs that you put out, each shot was quality, and that's what you gave the client to choose.
Yeah.
But now we're just shooting, we're not closing our eyes and, you know, squeezing and praying.
Right.
But now, you know, we're shooting in abundance with with quality being second, and then we're just choosing the 5 out of that 100. And it interesting. You know, I didn't, you know, putting it into that perspective. Yeah, that's a interesting food for thought there. And it, as being somebody who's been in the business for a while, yeah, you look at it that way. It's like, oh,
do you want me to pick my work? You know, it's like, that's your, you know, what is the, so, you know, usually the client can kind of, you know, pick out their editorial, their story, or their whatever they need for a campaign, or, you know, a portrait or publicity photo. And they had options. And then if the photographer just edits it down and has to Photoshop or correct the images that you're giving, you know, you can't obviously give them a large amount to pick from.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's very time consuming for the photographer as well, to do the thought process, and
right,
pick out the ones and
pick out the best ones. Yeah, just pick out the best ones.
And then, you know, clients are like, oh, it's black and white, can you make it in color? And I want to see it this, and then I want to see it like that. And, you know, it's never ending. Whereas film, it's like you would shoot black and white, you would shoot color, you would shoot slide, you know. So
but, you know, working, you know, let's start with work, you know, your work on the mainland, and having that interaction with those from the, while you're on the mainland. Did you start shooting digital while you're on the mainland, or once you got back home? Or is home here, or is home on the mainland?
you know, I was there for a good 25 years, based there. And then I would come home for the holidays, and I'd work at the local agencies, and I you know, I did what the industry uses in each market, because every market's a little different. So, you know, if I traveled to Europe or I went to New York, it was all different aesthetics. So Hawaii still kind of has its own little, you know, quirks and stuff.
So of course, you know, talking about your experiences on the mainland, why do you think Hawaii is a bit different from the mainland?
Well, I think Hawaii, the market is very, it's resort, it's commercial, and it you know, it wants to be colorful and happy, and they don't really need to get too edgy or, you know, try all the different techniques. But yeah, I think you know, they're happy, and they can stay and do what they want. So whereas different markets want, you know, cutting edge and all the latest trends, you know, in the 90s when cross process was happening, you would you know, negative film and process it in, slide film and process it in negative film, chemicals. You could take, you know, negative film and do it E6 and make slides and, you know, all this
but
stuff.
Now we can do that with a filter.
Yeah, with digital, yeah. So, you know, you know, like I do makeup and hair. I started that because I went to art school. I had you know, in Hawaii, I had scholarships on the Art Academy, and I got into photography as assisting. So it wasn't really my main focus until I realized, oh, this seems really easy. I can just, you know, take 10 shots and, you know, shoot a few rolls, and there's my job, you know. Whereas a painting, you can take months and keep going back, and it never seems quite done. Photography was more, you know, pick the best one you like, you know.
In the photography industry, do you think you being able to do the hair and makeup added value? You know, how did that add value to you as a
for me it did, because I traveled so much. So if I went to Australia, or if I went, you know, to Paris to work, I could just take the model out and, we'd meet at the agency and then just work from there. And I would come back and then have another, 1 or 2 models with me. And just walk around Paris and shoot, or in Australia. So I'd carry a little kit bag, because, if they're at that level, they really don't need that much makeup.
Right. It's almost like touch-ups.
Yeah. And, and it's different from what a client does with hair and makeup on a job than it is when you do a testing for a model or an actor.
It's different from what a client does versus a model. Oh, like you said, they're more prepared, or not prepared, but
they have a look they're going for.
And they're ready for that, and they come pretty much with that look. And
right,
I see.
So it's a little confusing to photographers when they see campaigns and they'll see like all the really overdone hair and makeup. Then they'll take a model and they'll kind of replicate that for the model to use, and then clients don't like that because they can't see that look. Yeah, and they can't see what the model really looks like. So now they do digitals where they just put a model in front of a white wall and they don't like mug shots. Yeah. Before, like you said, they were Polaroids. Now they're called digitals where the agent actually does it in the office.
Oh wow!
And they come in, just usually with undergarments and they're down against the wall, very mugshotty.
Interesting. And is that a trend, or not a trend, but is that something that you've seen change over time?
Yeah, because like you mentioned, the filters. So. We have clients, especially portraiture. You'll do their hair makeup and they'll look at themselves and they're like, I can see my pores, and I'm like, it's called skin. It's not a Snapchat filter. And then they'll see the proofs and they're like the pre-edited pictures, and again they're like, I can see my pores, and I'm like, because we haven't edited them yet. You got to pick out the ones you want first.
As a professional, how do you express that to them in the nicest way possible?
I just say the camera's not a magic wand, so we can shoot some on your iPhone with Snapchat if you want, whatever. Well, yeah, and then some of the uses they're only going to use it for social media sometimes. So having a large format camera is overkill. So you have to know your market too.
And talking about that market, like what would you consider your market if we were to say Kimo Lauer photographer specializes in this? What would you say your specialty is?
It's more like publicity, portraits, and then fashion, editorial, and that's more people, in general, people.
Who are a few of the bigger celebrities that you've worked with here in Hawaii?
Yeah, in Hawaii, I work mainly with the modeling and talent agencies, and then a few of the overlap in Hawaii with the amount of pageants that take place in Hawaii. I just would do like the Miss USA Hawaii, because they went on to Miss Universe, and I was actually with Brooke Lee when she won in Miami. So it was I was hired as well by at the time the Trump organization owned it. So yeah, I have a lot of insight on that. But we don't need to go there. We all know. But it was a lot of fun, and then in LA, I got to work with pretty cool people like Frank Gehry, who's a master, architect and designer. So he has this crazy fortress company where, you have to kind of, get a security pass.
Oh, okay.
To go in. And I had my my video camera on around my neck, just on the whole time. And
capturing that whole experience.
Right. And his lovely wife came out, and she wanted to do photos with him too. So it turned into a lot longer of a day than
nice.
So that was fun. And we did actually interview with him. And we shot it all in Leicas on digital. And that we still have a lot of footage from his interview and stuff. And then we got to do Hans Zimmer in Santa Monica at his compound. And again, that was another, secret clearance thing. And we, they had to make sure our equipment was clean and not dirty.
Wow.
And
who is the biggest diva celebrity that you've had to work with?
Well, everyone's important, but I always like to say it's great to be important, but it's important to be nice. It should be a fun experience. We're taking photos and we have to kind of keep it in perspective. But some people, that's why sometimes I get asked to do events and weddings, but it can be pretty challenging on that day. Because people's personalities can change.
Change pretty quick in the matter of a few hours.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, with digital now, it's opened the market, the industry, the photography industry. So you can get any box store and get a great camera set. And
it's not so much about it's not so much about the equipment at this point. It's really about, I think, now with everything being digital with social media, we are exposed to more creativity out there. Things that we normally might not have seen in the past in print or with film. I think we're seeing a lot now in digital, which I think is really cool. Where do you see photography going in the next 5 years with all these filters, with everything going digital,
all the AI
with
stuff.
AI, look at AI. Yeah, that could be a whole nother subject with that and what that's doing to the
I'm just gonna grow.
field.
I'm just gonna grow, wheatgrass and sell wheatgrass juice pretty soon at the farmer's market. But no, I mean, I still like doing stuff for myself and working with people that that you can collaborate and get inspired by, and you just feel like you can't reinvent the wheel, so it's just doing what you love, I guess.
Yeah. Where do you think, not 17 years ago, but where do you feel that you drew most of your inspiration when you first started in photography?
Getting paid in cash. No, when I was assisting, it was back then, especially, a lot of the art students were, trust funders. So they were like, they didn't want a hard job. So like, I'll be an artist. So they would hire people like me that, would do the setup, do the lighting for them, do the tests, so they could just walk in and do the shoot and leave. And then I would break everything down, and collect the film and take it to run all the errands and stuff. So, so that was great. There was a good incentive. It was, back then, you're 18, 19, getting paid, 250 cash a day. You're like, I can work every day, but you make it and you spend it just as fast as when you're that age. But then I changed my field from painting and drawing and ceramics. I did welding, and then I got into more in the photography side, especially with the film and how it's very technical. It can be, with the dark room, people become shooters. Did you develop
your own film?
Yeah, but I think, especially back then, you became a shooter or you became a developer. And then most photographers had a what do you call that? A photo lab they would work with, that they would talk to the techs and they would kind of know the way you wanted your film, exposed and developed and the proof sheets done. They would put sometimes glass over the negatives, and it would make your proof sheets look a little softer and prettier, and just little tricks, because that's all people would really. That's your card. That's your call. Your work, your proof sheets. So now, with digital, it's not really. It's all instant, right? Instant. For the stories and for the reels and for the posts. So, but yeah, I relocated back to Honolulu a week before lockdown during the pandemic.
Really?
Yeah. So that's when I relocated.
So we met you as you got back.
Yeah, right when I got back.
I don't think I even realized that.
Yeah, and I still haven't finished unpacking. I've just gotten used to boxes, and my parents come over and they're like, "Are you staying? It's been 3 years now." But I used to have, where I live now, we have community rooms that we can use. And thankfully, no one's really using them, but a handful of us. So I use those rooms to shoot and get people ready that need, that want just hair and makeup or whatever. Yeah. So they don't have to physically come in my house anymore.
I see.
So in the past, I always kept it up, and
Oh, you could leave it up that long that nobody was using.
Yeah, nobody's been using it, so I just kind of leave it in there. But yeah, so it's nice having a work-live environment that's separate now, whereas I've done it my whole life where it was in my house. So
not as much separation.
yeah. But no, it's very nice here. And then Hawaii has all the locations and stuff. So.
Do you find yourself shooting on location more or
I
in
would
that studio?
like to, but everybody just wants my studio stuff because it's different than local studio stuff.
What do you think? What is that different look that is Kimo Lauer?
I just think it's aesthetics. It just looks a little different. I don't know if it's just along with the makeup and hair, but lighting, as you know, lighting is pretty key, and that can really change people's faces. And like you look at some people and you wouldn't really know how photogenic they are until they're lit a certain way. And
do you think you developed that style, or how do you think you developed that style?
Assisting, especially early on. You get yelled at a lot. So
Yeah.
you'd bring in proof sheets.
You learned the hard way?
Yeah, and you get yelled at, like, things I notice now that I think because people aren't taught in a school or with agents.
Formally,
yeah,
right there,
and with agents giving you real-time feedback when you bring in all your work, so they could really explain to you like the aesthetic they're looking for. Like if your side light, backlighting, I notice, like you don't want light to hit your nose here, or your side eyes going too side eye.
All the whites.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, you pissed the editor off, didn't you? Because you're like that. But things like that, just and I noticed that in Hawaii, even on TV, especially like the news channels, and I'm just like,
picking up on these kind of like
push the lighting back further. It's like you're getting this crazy shadow, but just people don't notice it because they, it's just not a thing.
Like you said, I mean, of course, there's photography classes in high school, and I think even in college there's photography classes. But what do you think? What do you think Hawaii could use as far as growth in photography? More education, more studios that people can shoot out of.
It's hard because everybody in Hawaii is so nice. So even if like my nephew lives on the outer islands and they have a photographer they use for all their engagements and events and holidays and you just notice things and then you point them out and they don't see it until you point it out. Like he's as tall as me and they're in the shade but half his head is in, like, the sun is hitting it. And we didn't notice it until you pointed out. You're like, the top of your head's in the sun.
It was a nice photo up until you pointed that out.
Yeah, then they got mad. And you're just, you're like, well, they could Photoshop it if it really bothers you. But, it's too late because they sent all the cards out.
Oh,
but just little things like that, I think. Because I don't think anyone says anything critical or negative. Whereas in LA, New York, they're not afraid. They just go, yeah, like, look at this background. What are you thinking? Like these cactuses look like, they're growing out of our head. I mean, just anything. Whereas here, they're just like, oh, look,
that's nice.
Yeah, diamond hits so pretty. And, like the horizon line's cutting off their, like, crooked and it's cutting off their head and little things like that, like horizon lines. Like it bugs me when I see landscapes. Yeah, and they're not like hard, like, square it. But so that just little things like that. I don't know if it's just because no one's giving them feedback or saying things like that or want to be the bad guy.
Right. Yeah. But I think that, like you said, that is a very big difference from Hawaii and the mainland. It's more cutthroat. Straight to the point. Versus here, like you said, I guess that is a good way to put it. Everybody's a lot nicer.
Yeah.
So just like, oh, okay.
And with the open up, with the digital opening up to all kinds of people, the saturation of, like, the work that I'm used to seeing has drastically changed because everything is, desaturated, and you don't want to say it's like less or it's just different and everything is good, it's like, oh, this is so good and this is and then my head's exploding inside. But I don't if the client's happy, you should be happy.
But I think with that being said, though, I think for someone who's been in the business for so long and have seen the process, you do know what's good. You've seen a good quality photo. You've been trained, whether it's the hard way, you have been trained. we shouldn't have to compromise.
Right.
We
But
shouldn't
no,
have to
yeah, I just don't
compromise
see anybody in Hawaii yelling at anybody, for their photo work. Whereas, in LA, New York, or in Australia, people would yell at you like, "This is garbage," redo it, Um, it's just a different culture. So,
And do like what suggestion would you have to anybody watching that wants to say, hey, you know what? I want to go to New York. I want to make it in New York, LA, all those bigger places.
yeah.
I want to make it there. What are like 5 or 3 takeaways that you would give to them?
Yeah, again, the markets have changed because of digital. So it's just it's hard to say now because it's so it just seems so random. Like even if you learn your history and you go back and you find out like who are the bigger like 10 photographers, because when you were shooting film, it was expensive. Equipment was expensive. Film was expensive. Processing. So we would add on at least $25 just for film and processing per roll. So when we would do like an actor headshot, we would include 2 to 4 rolls, and that's it. And you have to pick from that. And so it's a different process. The whole mind thinking and the way the industry works. And, here people are using their iPhones and they're just, airdropping them as they shoot it.
Right.
So, and then, the thing with the industry that I'm in, they look at, let's say, your Instagram and everything's filtered, and then you show up and it's like, we want this girl in this gallery. We don't know, you don't really look like this person in this gallery. And then there's a great Netflix show called Fake Famous, which is very not like, if you're interested in this industry, it's a really good, and they're going to do the second one of it. But it's kind of a documentary experiment where they make somebody famous.
Okay.
And they kind of give you the steps how to do it. But I was being approached to do these photo shoots where you would go from LA to Vegas on basically a party bus with influencers.
Oh, okay.
And the pay they pay very well, but it's just
the experience, right?
It's just a nightmare. So, I couldn't do that. Yeah. But it would. I know people that do it in Miami, especially, and in some of the larger markets. But yeah, that wasn't for me. Especially when certain influencers, quote unquote, or creators or content creators, they only like a certain angle, a certain way to be photographed. And
very particular.
Yeah, and you're like, why am I here? Again, just get yourself.
If you already know what you want,
yeah. So it gets a little.
Takes the fun, the creativity out of photography.
Yeah, because when your client's telling you how to do the work, then it's like going to a restaurant and telling the chef how to cook the food, where they don't put that 2 and 2 together. Where they're hiring you, they want to hire you for your skill set,
your creativity, and what you bring to the table.
Yeah. So some of them don't really understand that. So that's when I'm like, I don't think I'm the right photographer for you. But
how often do you come across those instances where like
I can pretty much
that vibe isn't
right
there?
Away. Yeah. But I do love being back in Hawaii because I would love to get into even like some underwater photography and all that kind of stuff. But I have to get motivated again since the pandemic.
Do you have underwater housing that?
I have a very old one. I have very old.
Well, if it still works,
Yeah, but it's the rubber and it's all sticky. It was in a Pelican case, those big heavy duty ones with all my equipment that I don't ever think I'm going to use again. But I'm not sure.
And circling back to not comparing, but circling back to the differences between while you're up on the mainland and here, local celebrities versus mainland celebrities. With like
I said, Hawaii is very relaxed. There's no like in LA or New York, somebody's coming to take your place right away. So everybody's pushing themselves further and harder, and I think that's why they call it like a rat race or whatever. But when you come back to Hawaii, no one's really in a rush. Like it'll get done. They're using their headshots from you know,
10 years ago.
at least.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Can you
I
fix
still like
this in
right?
Photoshop?
Right. Exactly.
Make me.
They're taking a photo of it on their iPhone and putting it through a filter, and they're like reprinting it. But you know,
it's funny, but it's true.
Yeah, it's kind of because they don't need to. The people, the clients, the local clients here know the people already, so they don't. There's no need to update their photos like they do in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Where in LA they like to see people evolving and changing and doing better. So if they're showing up with a black and white headshot in Hawaii, they don't care. They're like, wow, this is really old. But they, you know, they still know it's who it, you know, yeah. It's still you.
You look pretty back then.
Yeah. Because here in Hawaii, they use it more to write on, you know, like note taking. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've been to, in like in LA or New York, I've been to where we're going to shoot at, and the clients have printed out the models' entire Instagrams. And they flag certain pictures, and they're like, "This is what we want for this." And you're just like, again, why am I here? Yeah. So it's
interesting.
Yeah, it's evolved everywhere.
The take and that creativity, the level of creativity that you need to bring to the table versus what the client brings and their creative directors.
So unfortunately, when you're always working with clients that want everything a certain way, that can get, you know, frustrating as well. Mm-hmm. But usually it's, you know, it's just clean and, you know, commercial, like you said, lookbooks and catalogs and that kind of thing. So at the end of the day, they're there to sell their goods and they're to market well. But clients that I've worked with over the years, literally over decades, they don't, when they come to the shoot, they just think they don't participate. You know, meaning, for example, let's just use one person we all kind of know and work together with, but like Brooke Lee, like, you know, we have fun with her, but you know, she's so multitasking all the time. But I'm like, if I'm going to do your, you know, the hair and makeup for you, like, you have to get off your phone. Like, you can't just give me a minute to, you know, get things done. But just that kind of stuff where, you know, people are so busy and they don't realize it's like, sometimes you have to just turn it all off. And just, stop. So we can do what we need to do and meet me halfway. You know, I can't just throw a filter on it and make it look perfect.
Very good advice for any aspiring models out there as you approach your makeup artist. Make sure you just
shut it down. Just turn off for a minute. But you know, other people like to do the whole stories and do the behind the scenes. And, I don't do any of that. So
it's a very now. I mean, trends are really different. You know, what's in, what's out. So. Yeah.
Even the names from, you know, influencers to creators to gods to artists. Everyone's an artist. So,
boy,
I mean, you know, it's a big umbrella now. Well, working in the industry in LA, it was very astrology driven. I mean, until this day, people won't work with certain astrologers.
Tell me about, I mean, if you could just elaborate on that.
Yeah, it's just for entertainment purposes, but some managers and agents are, you know, live and breathe by that kind of stuff. And, you know, being around certain people, you can pick up certain traits sometimes. I don't know if it's just coincidence, but.
And you're able to call them out on their sign and be like,
bit, the good things. I don't want to hear the negative things, but it's fun. Because you want to get comfortable, and you know you like to ask people a little bit. Some artists are pretty very internal, shy even, so they don't give a lot of direction. But if you're an aspiring actor or model out there and you're working with a photographer that's using a tripod, you have to move. You know, you have to. Whereas if you're new and you're working with a photographer hand holding, then at least you know the photographer is working around you to give you different looks and angles. So
that's a good tip.
Yeah. I rarely use a tripod. I just find it a little more interesting to hand hold and be a little more fluid with the movements.
I think there's a more variety that, you know, I mean, just much faster variety that you can give a client hand holding versus on a tripod.
Yeah. But I do prefer the larger format still. So.
I mean, working with the medium format, even digital, you know, with the digital medium format, film medium format, you can't. It's apples and oranges.
Yeah,
it's
hard.
Such a big comparison.
But with the way people consume the images, it doesn't.
It's overkill.
Yeah, people just scroll through or troll very quickly, and it's even too hard for people to tap like, so it's fine.
They're not going to recognize that separation on that medium format. It's like, it
is quite overkill. When your iPhone can do what, 5 megabytes now, or more even.
I think I was at my friend's wedding this past weekend, and then I took a picture of my family, and then I went back home. I think I printed like a 11 by 14
from your iPhone.
Nice. Yeah, I'm like, oh man, and it's only getting better, bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
More.
Well,
but I like seeing what people do. I don't like when I give people images. I don't tell them they can't do anything with it. I think it's kind of interesting to see the clients or the people that I photograph put their own twist on it with filters and stuff. I just ask them, don't put my credit when they do that. They can tag me, but don't put a credit. Use the credit when the images I give you as they are.
As is, yeah.
Yeah, and I do notice that happens a lot with digital photography. People will post and use it as inspiration and not give credit. That was always a big thing growing up.
Just photo credit.
Yeah, just a simple photo credit. And with digital, people should tag and mention at least, or somewhere. That's the only thing I've noticed with digital. People just consume it so quickly, and so not thinking of how much time and work went into
the actual photograph itself.
Like, they'll just put a poem over it and use it as inspiration, and some people will reach out and go, oh, I would love to use your your waterfall image and put a poem on it or something. But that's what happens in the industry, especially now.
Yeah, very, very different times. And where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, hopefully there's still a need, as you know. I think there will be a need, because I think once somebody takes hires a professional, there is a different experience for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I know we're joking around about AI and that coming into play and literally taking the place of an artist, and I think photography, with photography, we can't replace the interaction between ourselves as a photographer and the client to get a particular look. Right. So I think that will always be there, and hopefully photography will be as well.
Yeah, I mean, I still ask people, especially with digital now, when they have an idea, or whether it's hair and makeup, if I'm going to be doing the hair and makeup, or if I'm hiring a makeup artist, or even wardrobe, just so we're kind of on the same page, because somebody could, like if you ask somebody their favorite color and they could say blue, and I'm like, okay, light blue, indigo blue, midnight blue, like there's a lot of different variations. So if they give you, like back in the day, they would have like a tear sheet, like a wish list or something, that they would pick out editorials more that they would like to kind of add to their portfolio. So I still ask that from people, like, what, if you want to do headshots, you want it indoor, outdoor, or both, or natural lighting, or that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Because there is a look
for
like an actor headshot, or some people want to make it artsy, and it's like the casting director just wants to see what they look like. It's not,
that mugshot.
Yeah, but in the most flattering way.
Right. Okay, I mean, I think is that good as far as time? I mean, anything else you want to talk about, Kimo?
No, I love being home. It's great.
And I still can't get over, we met within a few months of you being back home.
Yeah,
I'm glad we did. Yeah, I'm glad we did. It was always fun. It was always fun hanging out with you on set. You kind of gave me something to laugh about and chuckle about while they were recording. So yeah, it's always fun. And
we had some fun. We had some fun hosts for the show, so we got to all work together on. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely agree. But yeah, thank you for coming by. Really appreciate it. Kimo Lauer, guys, check them out. Camera Club Hawaii. We'll see you guys on the next episode.